Welcome to another hot as fire starting over podcast. I am your host, Edward Shelton, aka Dark Logos, and this is the show where we look at the strategies, tactics, and mechanics behind the game of HeroClix. As you can tell, the fan is going because it's crazy hot. So I apologize for the sound quality once again. And when the sun decides it's no longer angry outside, or we decide to close down all our industrial complexes for the next 50 years so that our environment can adapt back to the way it was, I think it's going to be hot, very hot for a while. So anyway, getting to the core of the show today, you might be saying, hey, Dark Logos, you just put out a show, and you put out another show. Why are we getting so many shows? Well, mainly because Gen Con is coming. Sort of like a boogeyman in the back of the closet. It doesn't really become real until you get out the bed and then head toward the closet. And as time creeps on, we are moving forward and forward toward that closet, which is Gen Con. So inside of there is the first element that is scary, which is retirement. But that's sort of the known thing about there, Gen Con. Recently, as of when I'm talking, the official maps for Gen Con have been released. And I'm going to read off these maps. You most likely, by the time you listen to them, are going to be fully aware of them. But I'm saying them anyway, just so that we can sort of let this sink in. I think they decided to take it a little bit too serious in the map selection and decided to limit the maps to what we've been playing on recently. But with that said, let's look at it. What are our legal maps this year? Soul World, Nexus of Reality, Tamara, the Garden, Space Racetrack, the Collector's Ship, Mental Plane, Shrine to Death, Blue Area of the Moon. Sounds like a cool song. Blue Area of the Moon. Realm of Death. Nowhere. Alien City. Gamma Range. Shadowland. Shakar. Gamma Base. Smallville. Bizarre World. Metropolis. Fortress of Solitude. Okay, now, if you've listened to this show, you probably know by now there's one map that's making me cry oh so much that it was allowed at Gen Con. And guess what map that is? Pause it, take a second. Okay, it's Bizarre World. I really wish that they didn't do that. I understand why they did it, so that teams that felt that they didn't have a chance against the Colossal felt that they could get map choice to potentially win against the Colossal, but for the pure fact that they did not change the Colossal rules so that a Colossal could at least navigate and move through and possibly, just operate multiple levels of elevation just because the map is so cramped, really makes a big abuse for hypersonic speed. And once we're talking about the gauntlet, all the other team has to do is just sit in the back, literally, spin the gauntlet until they can name a power, and then decide, oh yeah, I'm going to attack. How lame is that? I mean, WizKids, you introduce Colossals at 100 points, 150, 200 points, and 300 points. We've had Colossals in over the last year that come to those ranges, and you design and pick a map that completely screws over that tactic. That either tells us that they believe that Galactus and Dormammu and freaking, Master Mold are too strong for the 300-point meta. Or they just want to have something that makes it so people don't think that those figures are viable. So I don't know which it is. It's really sad that they considered this. I don't think they fully thought out the repercussions of picking this map. Another trend that you might have noticed is that there is no map that was legal last year. Yes, there's no double dipping your cookies. So for all those people who thought there was a chance of, Ferris Air showing up, or a few other maps from your Fast Forces, no, they didn't show up. Okay, I will admit that the Incredible Hulk Fast Forces set, I have no clue about that map of what's on there, so I'm not going to even try to comment on that. Another one that I feel that they shouldn't have allowed is Shadowland. How many people have played on Shadowland? We all at some point in time, if you play within the last pretty much 6 to 8 months, have played on Shadowland. What does Shadowland do? Piss everybody off. Shadowland makes TK more powerful. Shadowland makes Lieutenant Gordon really broken. I hate to say it. Shadowland makes Lieutenant Gordon broken. Okay, because you just move 2 people, and they can try to TK all they want, they can't. What else does Shadowland do? It would nerf Chase Thanos, but Chase Thanos is never going to be played at 300 points. It makes it so that your Outwit, your Perplex, and all your other good jazz that you have that targets has a crappy range of 6. So, why is Shadowland being added into this rotation? It's one of the few maps that have rules. What happened to, not making it so that rules of the map dictate who wins? So I guess that theory is just out the window. It's whatever they feel like throwing up and, at the wall and seeing what sticks. But it sort of stinks what sticks. Okay. The other comment, sort of looking at, that's a little depressing as well, because a team set up for this map it can be ridiculously strong, is Nexus of Reality. The Nexus of Reality map, in all honesty, is pushing us toward tentpole fights, so that and really hypersonic speed, so that you can just, hypersonic speed and flying, so that you can just fly over those rocks, ignore that dead zone, hit your shot, come back, have somebody in the corner, TK you back or something. You have to pull a gimmick off, mainly TK and hypersonic speed. So that's a problem. The Garden is nice because it does give stealth teams a nice place to play, but with so much Avengers Initiative and Superman, you're not going to get an edge unless you're packing Beta Ray Bill. The Space Racetrack, I do think that this is one of the few maps that the special rules don't really hinder play and doesn't change too much, and it allows you to approach if you have a little bit more melee center team. Hypersonic speed is still beneficial, but I don't think it's king on this map, okay? It does get its certain benefits. The Collector Ship. We all played on it this month for our, Infinity Gauntlet games, and it is a map that does favor run and gun, but you need flying run and gun, because once someone gets up on those edges, it can really, really just mess up your day if you don't have flying run and gun. So flying run and gun is better than hypersonic speed for that map. So just chalk up that as a potential. Next is Shrine of Death. Hypersonic speed for the win. Once again, that map is just so narrow and so many just corridors. You almost wish you had a figure that could just bust down walls for free and just keep busting down walls. Oh, it's called the Juggernaut, but no one's going to play him. Next is the blue area of the moon. Multi-level elevation. This one can actually, I see, as competitive, because you need to manage your levels of elevation the entire time. and how you're moving on the second layer is going to determine how the third and the first layer come into play. So it's a little bit more complicated map, and I do understand WizKids adding multiple levels of elevation. Did it help things? Yes and no. But I think if we're able to see some teams that operate on multi-level elevation map, such as the Blue Moon, range is king more so than... I'm trying to say this without sounding HeroClix heretical. It's better for you to have a 12-13 range than for you to have like a 7-8 range of running shot. While that running shot will allow you to have, that first strike, having that 12-13 attack means that, range, it means that you can be TK'd up, or, you can be on the edge, shoot, and be TK'd back, or you can be TK'd up and shoot. That's just, the basic synthesis of running that team. Moving on, the mental plane. I'm assuming this is going to be the checkered board for next month. That's going to be interesting. That little landscape, I've been looking at that for a couple of days now, and I've been trying to figure out how best am I going to manipulate that map. So I'm not going to give too much away from my own insights, since I have yet to fight on it. But the Grandmaster realm, it seems pretty baller. There's Henry terrain. There's, to my knowledge, no special rules, which makes it a very nice equal map to play on. Blocking terrain periodically through there, and you have space for shenanigans. You have hindering terrain squares and lots of clear terrain. So you just need to be aware of where you're at and where you're going. There are very few straight lines on that map, which means that if you're just going to try to brute force towards your opponent, it's going to be tough if they decide to hide. So just keep that in mind, that on that map, people can just avoid you until they're ready to do what they're going to do. Okay, then there's Temeria. I think that's that wasteland map that you play for the champion. That is sort of like an open slugfest map. I don't think there's going to be too many picks on that map, but I could be wrong. Let's move on down. Shrine to Death. I think the Shrine to Death map, just for clarity's sake, I think the Shrine to Death map is the actual one that is on is what we're going to fight Thanos on. That map is one of the few maps that I feel that completely benefits Colossals, because you have a lot of open range, not a lot of blocking. Even though you have multiple levels of elevation, you're able to do a lot of just clear shots. So that in and of itself is a big advantage. I feel to have. Moving on, I think I already talked about Blue Area of the Moon and Realm of Death. Nowhere in Alien City. Nowhere, and I'm looking at the map now. I'm literally unfolding the map and looking at it. Nowhere puts you in an interesting position in your starting areas. Your starting areas are on the side, which gives you a 4-point advance up for each player. The problem comes in is that 4 square advance up and 3 over, when quantified and melted down, really is a disadvantage, because you're starting in a room and in a room. There's so many walls. The starting area that has the least amount of walls toward the The best way I can say it is desk and rotted out break room chair area. That one. The one that starts near the food area. That one is probably the best starting area. So if someone picks a map, they're most likely, if your opponent picks a map, you want to grab that side. Alien City, well, let me go back and say some things on Nowhere real quick. Nowhere makes you having long ranges just complete crap. If you have a lot of hypersonic speed, oh gosh, well, who would have thought? You can pick this map and it'll be to your advantage. Your running shot post waivers aren't hurt as much, but your running shot psychic blast people are a little bit more nerfed on this map if they have a longer range. So you have to realize your opponent is paying higher points for that 8 range, heck, even that 7 range now. So if you put them on that Nowhere map, they're going to be hurting. The Alien City map is an outdoor map. I think, if my comic sense is direct, it's sort of like the Kree homeworld from what was it? When it's like when the Phalanx invaded and Ultron was in charge. That storyline. Yeah, it looks exactly like the Kree homeworld. Anyway, but they're not going to call it Kree homeworld, so yeah. You have water terrain, so if you have any figures that have any special water effects, you will want to pick this map, but most likely, since this is one of the few maps with water terrain, aqua figures will not be played. Okay? Not only that, it's very wide open. You can pick your shots. It does have multiple levels of elevation, but it's mostly on the side. So if you want just a straight up pound out fest, then yeah, right there, it's that Alien City is for you. Gamma Range. Gamma Range is a interesting prospect because if you're playing Magneto with the full gauntlet, he likes that because he can sit up in that center area, set up where he's going to be, and just bombard you. Or he can just sit in near his starting area, near the bunker, blow out a couple of walls, and sit in that debris the entire time and tell you that you have to come to him. So that map in particular can be interesting because Magneto can utilize his full range very easily. Very, very easily. So for you Magneto players, that's the map for you. Now the downside to this map is if you're really stealth dependent, there really isn't a lot of places to hide, and you do need to make sure you stagger out your objects. If you are a turtle player and you want to turtle and turn, Stranger can do this map no problem. He just makes sure he has to pick the right corner. Alright, moving on down the line. Shadowland. I hate Shadowland, talked about it. Sakaar, don't have it, can't comment. Gamma Base, don't have it, can't comment. Smallville, a wide open area, and it does give you a new understanding of can't hit the broad side of the barn, since there is a barn on that map. Hypersonic speed is not as advantageous on this map as just, I hate to say it, just pure flat out barrier. Barrier and marching down the field is going to be so good on this map because there's places that you can actually maximize that. Metropolis. Your Kryptonian teams are going to like this map a lot. Another issue with this map is we don't currently have a figure that can hit the center of that map and then hide in the center of that map and shoot out from the center of that map within 300 points. That would be legal for Gen Con, but if we did, this is the map that they would be on. Other than that, there really isn't a great advantage. It does sort of cut the map in half with the globe sitting there in the middle, but good players are just going to realize that it doesn't cut the map in half. All it does is give a bulge to the map. So it makes it a little bit longer to travel, but some shenanigans and tricks that you can pull is just making sure that you cut your angles a little bit sharper. So you would approach straight down the middle, then TK to the side, and then you would like either perplex up range or movement so that you can get around, so you can get your attack. The biggest thing to be concerned about is hyperextending, because once you're on the dark side of the globe, there's no one can see you to give perplex or prob. And finally, Fortress of Solitude. Again, multi-level shenanigans. Flight is awesome. Managing those top layers are going to be the most important thing. So you might be asking, why rush a show to talk about this? It's sort of clear there's not super in-depth analysis. And also it's sort of clear that WizKids just put a full gambit of maps out there. So why rush a show? Why not wait to see what people think? The main reason is this. The moment that they announced Bizarre World, Shadowland, Nexus of Reality maps, once they announced those, it pretty much ruled out a couple of things in Gen Con. And I'm going to just make it clear for everyone. If you play a team without TK, you will lose. If you get dropped on Nexus of Reality, you cannot maneuver. Like, your team is shut down. If your opponent has TK and hypersonic speed, you cannot play. Okay, so that shuts that down. Hydra is dead. Nexus of Reality kills it. Let's see, what other map kills it? Bizarre World sort of kills it, because you got to remember, they need line of fire like way downfield. They need a big open map. Shadowland kills it. You might be saying, well, how does Shadowland kill it? Because pretty much anything that draws line of fire that has an effect is limited to 6 range. Even though most of the Hydra officers, that's their range, it really puts them up in that risky zone, where instead of being able to sit back, because they're very, very soft. So you're talking about, so I can get Odin, or let's say, let's be silly. Someone plays that one Hulk that's ridiculously expensive. So I can get that Hulk from a 19 defense down to a 16, 17, using 2 aim agents, and having them within charge range of Hulk, and Hulk has the gauntlet. That's not smart. Okay. The next thing that we are probably not going to see, even though I mentioned it, is Magneto with the full gauntlet. We might see it just because people think it's broke. Those people probably won't be top 8. Why do I say that? Well, let's start looking. What maps actually benefit Magneto? Soul World, Nexus of Reality, not so much, because he can't get up and around those big chunks. He can get on one side and either sit or try to get in a position to make a shot, but once the other player says, oh, I have hypersonic speed, I'm always going to bounce at an angle for you not to get a running shot, eventually it's going to be a problem. And then also, he's always going to be carrying henchmen or something, so that he either can increase his damage or so that he can stay protected. Okay, so really Magneto might be out unless he can guarantee map roll, and that means him running a pure Hellions team. I mean, not Hellions team, Hellfire Club team. And while he could get +3 to map roll, there are other teams that are feasible that will be able to get him on that bad map. Okay. Next up, the next map that just sort of dictates everything. Like I said, is Bizarre World map. That map in and of itself means that we are not going to see Colossal play. The Colossals just can't land. Okay, it's impossible. They can't do anything on that map. By allowing this map, WizKids said to everyone who dropped $50, $60 on a Colossal figure or more, for you Galactus people, they sort of gave you, a impolite gesture. There's kids around and listening, so we're just going to say impolite gesture to indicate they stuck their tongue out at you and said, "Thank you for giving us your money. We don't think you belong at cons." Okay, that's how I feel. I know they're going to say otherwise. For the pure fact, when you actually you look really close, yes, Colossals can go from elevation to elevation, but the only Colossals that can really maneuver through the Bizarre World map are the 2x2 Colossals, or the 4-square Colossals. And even with them, let's look closely. How much line of fire can they get on most of the map? I'm looking here with patch. If you're able to get to the 4-square of elevation, you can sort of rain down fire, but at the same time, you're a Colossal and you're going to get shot at the entire time. Just from that being on that elevation, because everyone will be able to draw a line of fire to you. So, yeah, you would be able to maximize your range once you hit literally the middle of the map. And for that to be a tactical position is a joke. Now, I will say that Toys R Us exclusive, and I can't remember which one it was, but it starts with invulnerability at 150. Teaming up with a gravity feed, Doctor Strange, or that 100-point Fast Forces Indigo one. It's your choice. Would be greatly beneficial for your survivability. In a couple of Donald Blakes. But pretty much that map meant that there's no 24 squared Colossal that can exist on that map, because automatically once you get on that map, they just said, "Sorry, sir, you can't do anything," because you can't maneuver to a point to see over certain parts of the map. It's just how it is. You can be bold and try. If you are going to play a Colossal, unfortunately, you're going to have to play a robot theme team with Master Mold, which most likely means that he's not going to have a gauntlet, a full gauntlet at least, unless some cheap robot comes out. And even then, it does not accent Master Mold to his best capacity. Okay, at best, you break even with like a Magneto team or another generic team by having +3. You're not getting ahead. So automatically that rules out Master Mold. Doesn't necessarily mean 100% that he's not coming or he won't show up, but it means there's a high likelihood he's not going to be there. Okay. I'm going to say the following things, and this is based on Saturn Flight's analysis on HC Realms. So I'm gonna give up his all credits to him and how he sees things. And I'm gonna say it on, and these are on the maps I don't have. So I just want to make it clear that I'm borrowing from him. He says Sakaar is a great choice for a mastermind based team. The central tower provides cover for your fodder and prevents pesky adjacent issues. You may spend the whole game repositioning if a wise opponent circles in the center rather than accept your setup threat. And then he gives a nice link to it, and you can sort of see a better picture of that map. And I'm looking at that now. And the one thing that I look at this map is it's a little bit more open. If you hit certain choke points, you can, I see what he's saying, you can force it so that your opponent can't get certain shots off on you. But at the same time, if you're on upper elevation and you're raining down fire on your opponent, guess what? Who they can shoot? They can shoot you. And there's, the idea is like, oh yeah, look, mastermind, ha ha ha, can't hurt me. But let's be honest now. Are you only going to have one figure that you can mastermind to? No. You're most likely going to at least have two. And the center area setup that he's talking about, pretty much, if you play it right, you can either move to another piece of elevation that can, and you can have line of fire to the center elevation from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. If you can shoot out 8 squares or more, you can hit that center elevation right near from your own starting area. If you try to post up in the elevations near you, you can, just stay there the entire game. But the problem comes in is flying running shot in decent range. Oh, look, I'm going to fly. I have decent range. I'm just going to shoot you. I'm on the same elevation, so I can see past you. And if I can spend a perplex or two, I'm just going to shoot your fodder. Sort of see how that goes. Now, note, what did I say about range? Long ranges are going to be a problem because there's enough maps in here that's going to mess with them. At the same time, if you're depending on that setup, you're going to have certain problems. Your Colossals are just going to be like, meh, whatever, I see you anyway. But Colossals aren't going to show up. The next one, I'm taking analysis from Saturn Flight, is the gamma. It's the gamma base, not the gamma range. It's the gamma base. The gamma base, unfortunately, he doesn't have a picture. He says there's are still enough wall ignoring characters to give incentive to run this map. Juggernaut, Moonstone, Kitty Pryde can make surprise attacks from inside of the buildings, and those are just the X-related characters. It's also a great map for radius effect objects. If any of those, anyone chooses to use Kryptonite over Gauntlet, as you can use the walls to protect the objects. So this mainly goes to the Gamma Bomb teams. You can make it so it's harder for them to get to your Gamma Bomb. So they have to either use more actions or wait more turns to get to where they need to get. So let's sort of recap and melt this down some more after looking at everything. We see that special rules are allowed. There's only a few maps that the special rules are completely breaking. We see there's a map that completely just nerfs Colossals, and we see there's really nothing that nerfs hypersonic speed, nothing really nerfing pulse wave, nothing really, there's a few maps that nerf running shot range, and there's a few maps that make it really difficult for you to run some form of barrier. Okay? So what are our top powers that we're looking at right now? And what's going to be our champions pieces that I'm betting, the qualities thereof, because we haven't seen all Chaos War. First off, you're going to have to be able to zip around and make long distance attacks with high movement over high range. High movement over high range. So while 8 and 10 range is awesome with like a 4 running shot, we'd be able to move for 4, and it'll give you, a nice swing. It's better for you to have that shorter range so that you can operate in those more compact maps, so that you can, running shot farther and get off those shots, because your opponent can't either A, get line of fire to you because you're around the corner, or B, you're in a position where you can initiate a close combat attack on your opponent without retaliation. The next thing is, if you have a team that's depending on distance, figure out what your contingency plan is for Shadowland. Are you going to stay on second elevation, or are you, going to, just tell your opponent, come to me, and stay in a corner and hope that they don't have hypersonic speed? That's pretty much the only thing you can really do on Shadowland. Which also means you cannot build a team full of frail figures. Shadowland makes it so that you have to get within charge range of your opponents. This map gives, I hate to say it, it gives an edge to 150-point Superman. His range for hypersonic speed is 4. So pretty much the effects of Shadowland doesn't affect him. He's going to get his full movement. So he's going to outrange you and outmaneuver you. And if you get close enough to shoot him, he's just going to move up 2, smack you, and run back 7. Just, sort of get the feeling of that. Okay. The next element that we're noticing is it's better for you to have damage resistance and then get energy shield than for you to just have energy shield. So most likely we're going to see either Indigo 1 or Doctor Strange from the Gravity Feed in some form or other with a damage reducing figure, because you're not going to get around how much Psychic Blast is going to be present, and you're not going to get around how much Pulse Wave is going to be present. And I do know, Energy Shield does not do anything against Pulse Wave. But you want to force your opponent, before they can get that Pulse Wave shot off, to do as many ranged attacks as possible. So figures that have built-in damage reduction Energy Shield in moderate range, such as Eradicator, really now have a leg up. Okay, so Eradicator has a high chance of showing up. Cosmo for the cheap TK has a high chance of showing up, but we're most likely going to see Astro Doctor Strange in the partial gauntlet. For the pure fact that Shadowland's here, Magog has a chance of showing up, but Magog teams need to have a way of getting map so they can keep people on Shadowlands. The space racetrack also means figures that can do effects without line of sight, that can sort of maneuver around and to limit line of fire in various ways are going to have an advantage. I'm going to say this figure, it's probably the last time I'm going to say it, a full gauntlet Larfeeze on Soul World and, sorry, not Soul World, on Nexus of Reality and on the racetrack map, and Shadowland and Bizarre World has a chance of wrecking people. Now, why might I say that? Okay, if you're within the Nexus of Power, you can't do attacks, correct? Right, you cannot initiate power actions within the Nexus of Power. But is Larfeeze initiating that power within the Nexus of Power? Technically, no. So he can punch figures in the Nexus of Power. Most people are going to run around that, but it really doesn't matter. He's just going to punch people around that. All those close combat maps, like Nowhere, he's just going to send out his Pogs. There's only a handful of maps that hurt him. Like the Garden map hurts him because there's really nothing separating him and his opponent. The Mental Plane map, just a little bit. The Shrine of Death, yeah, that one's open. So that's not an option for him. And Alien City, definitely. but he loves Shadowland. So those are things I really want you to consider. And I do know, yeah, chances of someone playing Larfeeze is next to none because you are hyper dependent on map. But he could actually surprise some folks. And I'm talking about the one from DC 75th. Okay, that's really mostly it. I really hate to say some of the following things, but I'm going to go ahead and say it. And this is just based on map selection. Ultron with those drones is not as good as we thought. Just in all honesty, because we're going to give Ultron the gauntlet. She's already 160. Plus, we're going to give her, full gauntlet. We don't want her outwitted. We're already paying for willpower for the gauntlet plus the indomitable. TK on all the maps isn't guaranteed to be clean, and by clean I mean being able to maximize that 8 line of sight range, which automatically then means that you being on that, having that one-man team with Ultron, or that one-woman team with Ultron, it just won't work. You have to line up way too much. And you might say, like Edward, you say, the winning team's going to need TK. It will. It definitely will. But Ultron has the inability to dictate map. You will not get enough robots to dictate map. And that's your biggest problem. You either forfeit TK in support for robot theme, or forfeit robot theme for what you need to function, for Ultron to function. But you're going to lose map. Alright, unless you're fighting a non-theme team. Alright, so then the other thing that we have to see just from the maps is that automatically stealth is not monopolized on all the maps. The garden map helps. If you play with area of the blue area of the moon, you have some points where you can sort of play with. Nowhere, you have all those walls you can bust down. So that place can be yours. Alien City, not so much. Gamma Range, no. Shadowland, you're getting so many. There's plots for you to hide, but really you're only getting advantage by everyone's range being gimped. Smallville, oh yeah, there's so much hindering in Smallville. Bizarre World, not so much. Metropolis, not so much. Fortress of Solitude, not so much. So your Batman teams may have a chance, but even then, you're going to have to play Beta Ray Bill to have that go off. So I hope this analysis has helped. I know that a lot of people might find it a little bit rushed, and I will admit it is. But at the same time, I wanted to get for those more serious con players, I wanted you to have something to start your play testing and tinkering with what I said. And if any of you find the ability to make Larfeeze work, more power to you. And another thing that I want to bring up is I was approached by, who was it? Avarice HeroClix, and he said that he's selling a HeroClix Infinity Gauntlet that's been customized, and I'm looking at the picture now. It's pretty good. Free shipping, and 90% of it is going to Wounded Warriors charity. So I can't say what the listing is, or else I will have it pulled. But it is a charitable event. It's a LED. Just look for LED light up USB rechargeable charity. Okay, and you'll find it They're on the place where it's just a bay of good deals. Okay? And you might be saying, well, why are you being real cryptic about it? A certain website in which I post on. And just to be fair, since for me to post on that website, I can't bring up that website, I can't bring up other websites' names so I can post. I'm going to reduce how much I say that website. So one might notice it's one of the bigger sites in HeroClix, but for those who've been around the web will also know that it's not the only site in HeroClix. But to abide by those rules, I can't say other websites. But at no point in time am I required to endorse or speak well of this site that I'm hosting on. So, you know me, I'm not a guy to talk smack. But in this case, I sort of wish I could endorse a little bit more. I know there's probably some other podcasters that are going to go a little bit more full out on it. But me and certain people have blood running in the water. So some people just don't want to see you succeed. And those people called haters. Anyway, this is the Starting Over podcast. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, email me at startingoverpodcast@gmail.com. A couple people have emailed me, and I have sent them my police team. If I get some more emails, I might actually tell you all my Golden Age 900 point police team. So, send your emails to me. They do make my day. And remember, we all have to start over sometime.